Today's first interview is with David Lee. He is the founder and owner of the Field Roast Grain Meat Company, a business that he started in Seattle, Washington in 1997, where it is based out of today. His company produces a variety of traditional meat products that are made of a special grain meat recipe, and these completely plant-based foods have garnered the following and praise of many vegans and vegetarians and omnivores in the United States and Canada alike who love the taste and texture of his apple sage sausages or celebration roast, to name just a few favorites. However, as of just a few weeks ago here in Canada, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, or CFIA, has declared that Field Roast will no longer be able to distribute in Canada unless its specific food labeling laws for what they call simulated meat products are adhered to. David is here today to tell us his story in this whole turn of events. Hello, David, and welcome to the Animal Voices radio show.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. So thank you for coming on the show today to speak with us about this situation. You're here today to share your story, but could you first give some background to our listeners about what you're all about? Please tell us about the Field Roast Grain Meat Company, what kinds of products you sell, and the whole philosophy behind your grain meat products.
Yeah, sure. The Field Roast Grain Meat Company is located in Seattle, Washington. Just over the border from Vancouver, and we have been in business for about 18 years. And I got the idea for the product because I was working with an artisan bakery and in the 90s, and I was seeing all this really beautiful hand-formed bread and all this care that was being put into the product. And meanwhile, I was doing some product development, and I was developing a kind of a teriyaki wrap, and I was looking for a protein food to put into the wrap, and I saw all these like fake meats and these products that were trying to be something that they weren't. They were trying to be like a fake ham or a fake chicken or something like that. And I just kind of put two and two together, and I thought, why not make a real vegetarian or vegan grain meat product that was not trying to imitate the sinew and flavor of animals. But was all, plant-based. So, plant-based seasoning. So, for example, for our original product line, we make smoked tomato, wild mushroom, and lentil sage, loaves and deli slices. And, those flavors are not trying to imitate animals. They don't emulate animals. But, smoked tomato is red and smoky. Wild mushroom is dark and earthy. And then lentil sage is very herbaceous. And so that's how the company started, and we've grown nice and steadily over the years. We just moved into our new plant here in Seattle, which we're really pleased to be in, and it's our third building. And we sell our products all over the U.S., all over Canada, or at least we did until a week ago. We sell in Europe, we sell some in Australia, and some throughout Asia. I think people really resonate with the fact that we're not trying to be something that we're not, and people like the quality of what we do, and the reason why it's easy to make a really good, tasty product is because we aren't trying to imitate, those flavors, which are kind of hard to do, I think. It's kind of scientific.
So tell us what happened earlier this month when the Canadian Food Inspection Agency contacted you about issues with the labeling on your products in Canada.
Yeah, well, unbeknownst to us, and there's this rule that exists that if you make a sausage or any product that looks like in the same form that an animal meat product is made, then you are supposed to emulate the nutritional profile of that product so it matches an animal product. So that's why, if you notice, if you look at some of our competitors, they fortify their products with chemical supplements and vitamins, and then on the front of the package they'll put simulated meat, and also there's something called the protein efficiency ratio, which is kind of an arcane study. A process. It was developed in around 1916, but then became into law in Canada in 1981, and essentially what it is it's a rating of the efficiency of the protein as compared to an animal protein. So with the implication being that vegetarian proteins are insufficient or are incomplete. They're an incomplete protein. So this is what they ruled for us, and we understand that those were the regulations, and I guess bad on us for not knowing that. When we came into the Canadian market, we've been selling in the Canadian market for 5 years, and I know that before then, a lot of people would come across the border and get our products, and they come to visit us in Seattle. So we were just kind of shocked to learn this. But as I said before, we went into the Canadian market. We did work with a consultant, and we thought our labels were all in compliance, but obviously they aren't according to the regulations.
So I'm curious to know, you said your product's been in Canada for 5 years. Why is this all suddenly happening now as of a few weeks ago?
Well, I think these laws are enforced randomly. I mean, the people, that I met with, they're all very busy people, and somehow they just kind of get around to it. This is very common in the industry. I think it's common in the United States as well, and this is kind of what happens. It was just kind of our good luck, I guess.
So you told me a few weeks ago that you're not going to stand for this ruling and that you're going to do what you can to keep field roast in Canada. Can you first explain why it is you take issue with these food regulations of the Canadian government?
Yeah, well, I just think that it's archaic to use animal protein as a standard, and there is actually a new Food Modernization Act that's coming into consideration here the next year in Canada. So this last week I was in Toronto and attended a regulatory session with the Canadian Health Food Association, and there's a lot of excitement about what that might bring. I think that this law here is a throwback from a time when it was certainly an animal protein paradigm, where animal protein was really kind of the base, and that was what was used as a kind of gold standard. And I think since then, there's just been a whole flowering of vegan consciousness and awareness, and people learning to eat differently and learning to, and so I think that the people that eat our products, many of them eat meat. Actually, a lot of our customers are flexitarians. A lot of our customers are vegans who are eating our field roast products, and they're also eating tofu, and they're eating the butternut squash and kale and quinoa and all kinds of good food. And I think there's a misunderstanding that people are eating these kinds of products like field roast in the same way that people ate meat like in the 60s. Or maybe still eat, actually, probably today, in terms of just, you always need to have, something like that on your plate, and a protein food like that on your plate. And I think that's just not the case now. So, we've had just a great outpouring of support. My wife and I went to the Toronto Veg Fest and met with a lot of our customers there, and people were just really disappointed to hear about this and just love our products, and we're quite happy eating them. So I think that, the issue about safety, and I think there's a confusion also with the word vegan, and I'm not sure, I don't know this, but I don't think that the Canadian government and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and their regulations actually recognize the word vegan as a standard. And so instead they want us to put simulated meat on our product, which of course we find abhorrent and kind of against what we're about. Because some people may not believe us, but we're not trying to imitate animal meat. This is we use the word meat, which actually they did not find fault with, because it's part of our name, the Field Roast Grain Meat Company. And if you look up the word meat in the dictionary, often the first definition will be, towards animals, but the second definition, and in some dictionaries, the first definition is solid food. So you might have heard the word meat to describe the edible portion of a nut. So nut meats, for example, or coconut meat. And so we have coconut meat, nut meats, animal meat, vegetarian meat, wheat meat, soy meat, and so forth. It's kind of like how if you look at the milk category, it's actually very similar to what's happening in Canada with the milk category, because in Canada, as in the U.S., the vernacular or regular everyday usage, everyone calls those milks milk. So when I'm at your house and we're having a cup of tea, you're going to ask me, David, would you like to have some almond milk with your tea, or soy milk, or whatever? But yet on the shelf, on the label in retail stores, it is illegal or non-compliant for those beverage makers to use the word milk to describe their plant-based milks. They have to say beverage, and they also have to fortify it too. So it's the same kind of thing. So I think actually the milk category is the same situation in the veggie meat category too in Canada.
So can you tell us what course of action that you are planning to take to try to get these laws reworked in Canada? Yeah, so there's been a lot. There's a huge outpouring of support. We've got a lot of friends and really great people that have been super supportive, and are kind of want to mobilize. And of course, I'm a vegan myself, and people feel very strongly about this. But we are taking right now a more considered approach, working through the corridors of power. And we're going to apply for what's called a temporary market authorization letter, which will enable us to get permission to continue to sell our products in Canada while we build the case through science, through a study that we will put together that will show kind of what I just described. It will show that people are not confused about our products, that they know that they're vegan, they know they don't contain animal products, and to show that people who eat our products are eating lots of other food and also are quite healthy eating them as well. And so there's no lack of nutrition. And so I think I'm fairly confident that if we're able to show that we will be successful in doing that. So right now, I know there's a lot of people that are really, kind of chomping at the bit and really, are upset, even angry about this, and as I am upset about it. But we're asking those people just to chill a little bit while we are pursuing this course with the Canadian government, and then, pending that decision, we'll take our next steps. Well, that's what I was going to ask about next is what can we do as consumers? I can say that since this news first came out in Canada a few weeks ago, that here in Vancouver, your large base of Vancouver supporters who just love Field Roast have been wanting to know what we can do as citizens and consumers to get Field Roast back in Canada. Is there anything that we can do, or should we just chill out, as you were saying?
Well, yeah, I think right now, if people be, so I've been advised that it's best that just, we don't want to create a firestorm and create like a partisan, fireball, about this. We want to just, allow us to kind of work through this group of people in Ottawa and, these regulators, and see if we can, speak some sense to them and get their permission to get this authorization to sell our products in the Canadian market, with the idea that we will put together a study that will show that our products are not confusing and are healthy for Canadians.
Well, thank you for coming on the show with us today, David, to speak about labeling issues with vegetarian meats in Canada and how it's affecting your business. And I just have to say, I'm supposed to be on a raw food diet now. And yesterday when I was making these questions and today before our interview, just something made me have to go to my fridge and get an apple sage sausage to eat. So my favorite. So to find out more about the Field Roast Grain Meat Company, you can go to fieldroast.com, and to see the exact wording of the nutritional requirements for simulated meat products on the Government of Canada Justice Law's website, please visit our website, animalvoices.org, for the direct link. Thank you, David, and I wish you luck.
Thank you very much, Allison. And we'll keep you guys updated as we go along, too, so you'll hear from me again, I'm sure. You'll hear from me.